Hey everyone, and welcome back to Underdog Investing. Today I'd like to talk about Palantir. Firstly, going through the ARK Invest 2021 Big Ideas report and showing you one of the graphs which demonstrate how bullish ARK Invest are on Palantir and why they're buying so much Palantir stock, especially recently. And then I'd like to talk about a bit about what Palantir is and the two main platforms of Palantir, which is Gotham and Foundry. And then finally, I'd like to talk about the stock price and what I'm planning to do with this stock. So before I jump into this video, I'll be very grateful if you can smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for future updates. So starting with the Big Ideas 2021 report by ARK Invest. So here they detail the 15 most important ideas that we shouldn't ignore in terms of investing in the near future. And deep learning is the first section. So if we look at one of the graphs from the first section, you can see that deep learning is software 2.0. So the difference between software 1.0, so pre-2015, is that software 1.0 is code written by humans. And you can see that we've had an increase in terms of software capability, but nothing like the software 2.0, which is code written by data. And you can see that this will enable a exponential rise in the software capability. So ARK Invest actually wrote here, during the next decade, we believe the most important software will be created by deep learning, enabling self-driving cars, accelerated drug discovery, and more. So this is basically the what Palantir's bread and butter are. So they're taking data and making it more powerful for companies. And so the actual addressable market is unlimited when you think about the fact that pretty much every industry needs data and it's going to be ever more important. So Palantir is only just going to get more important and more relevant, and the addressable market is just unlimited. So that's why ARK Invest are so bullish on this company. So now let's talk a bit about Palantir. So the two main platforms for Palantir are Gotham and Foundry. And we've got a third platform called Apollo, but that basically is a software that delivers the capabilities for Gotham and Foundry. And so I'm going to go through Gotham first and then Foundry, and then talk to you a bit about the stock price after that. So the way I see Gotham is that it is basically taking data from different parts of an individual company, for example, and they basically put it together and turn it into something which is understandable to the people who own the company, so they can use that data to make better decisions and basically make the company more valuable that way. So organizations have data, lots of it. Structured data like log files, spreadsheets and tables. Unstructured data like emails, documents, images and videos. This data is typically stored in disconnected systems where it rapidly diversifies in type, increases in volume, and becomes more difficult to use every day. The people who rely on this data don't think in terms of rows, columns, or raw text. They think in terms of their organization's missions and the challenges they face. They need a way to ask questions about their data and receive answers in a language they understand. Enter the Palantir Gotham platform. So Palantir Gotham integrates and transforms data regardless of type or volume into a single coherent data set. As data flows into the platform, it is enriched and mapped into meaningful, defined objects, so people, things, and events, and the relationships that connect them. So you can see here is basically what I said about how Gotham basically takes the information from different aspects of the business. So they take the data and then they collect it and then turn it into one piece of data which is understandable to us and which helps us make the right decisions for the company. And without it, you're really going to be behind compared to the companies that are using Palantir. So this is an example of how Gotham was used to do good. So powering rapid response after Hurricane Florence. So we had in September 2018 Hurricane Florence, which devastated North and South Carolina in the United States, and it was responsible for $17 billion in damage. And what they did is they took the military veteran volunteer corps Team Rubicon with 1,000 volunteers, as well as Palantir Gotham. And the way Palantir Gotham played its role is they combined publicly available flood data and weather information and social vulnerability census data to find the communities in greatest need. So they were able to collect different pieces of data and piece them together in a way so it makes sense, and we were able to see which areas needed the most help, and therefore we were able to deploy the people to help the areas which were most in need. So with Palantir Gotham, Team Rubicon used data to marshal resources faster to those most in need. So that's just an example of how Palantir Gotham works. So now moving on to Palantir Foundry, this is a really interesting part. So the way I see it is Palantir Gotham is more like collecting the data and making sense of it, whereas Palantir Foundry is when they basically use the data and predict what the possibilities are in the future, depending on different actions that we take based on the data that was given. So it's almost like plugging the data into a simulation and seeing what happens if you make certain decisions. So that's very useful for companies and could save them tons of money and help them make the right decisions. And it's basically like predicting the future. So simply put, Foundry can take traditional data management, integration and mining and turn it into an internal simulation to create the best possible outcome for a company's success. Now, you're probably thinking this sounds like something you may have seen in a sci-fi show like Westworld. In a much more realistic way, that is exactly what it is. So this is how the data management of Foundry can change the course of any business and help set the best possible path to success. The what ifs of every business can be simulated in a way like never before, with actual analytics and results of an expansion that might cost millions. Palantir essentially creates a digital twin of a business model and grows it alongside the actual business while using everything it learns to improve both. With Foundry, businesses will be able to protect, innovate and change themselves in ways never imagined, capitalizing on a market that has never been explored with an addressable market that cannot be measured. So yeah, this is the part which I find really amazing. It's like you can kind of see how Gotham and Foundry work together to really increase the chances of a business being successful and really destroying its competition. The way Gotham takes the data, collects it and turns it into something which is understandable, connecting the dots, and then the way Foundry takes that data and looks at the possibilities and actually puts it into a simulation and lets us know what would happen if you made a certain decision. So for example, if a company wanted to go a certain way, they can use Foundry to find out what is the likely outcome of a particular decision, and if it's not a good decision, then they can stay away from that and do something else. So it's very useful for companies. So now I'm just going to talk about why I like the CEO, and one of the reasons is because he's a bit like Elon Musk. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind. So Palantir CEO rips Wall Street as having a destructive and corrosive short-term focus. I love that he's not afraid of Wall Street and he's really just speaks his mind. And the great thing is as well, Palantir CEO says he supports the Reddit traders who have helped the stock's post-IPO gains. So he also supports the retail investor, which I really like and which is similar to Elon Musk. This person's got charisma. And he's Alex Karp, by the way. So, we're in this for the long haul, the CEO said. If you are speculating or you're thinking about this short term, there are plenty of other things to invest in. If you want something else, it's a huge world, buy some other stock. You don't have to buy Palantir. No one is forcing you. So this is basically what ARK Invest and Cathie Wood say. So they're in Palantir for the long term. That's why they're not afraid when the stock goes down. They've actually been buying significant amounts of stock recently during this tech sell-off. So this just demonstrates how bullish ARK Invest are on Palantir. And this is another very, very bullish point. So there's also something worth noting from the company's last earning report. Though Palantir was not profitable on an earnings basis, many missed that they offered $1.2 billion in stock compensation to their employees. Typically, this is something we would see with a startup. The fact that we are seeing actions like this from a company that has been around for about 17 years is a strong indicator that they know what they have is impactful. So basically, this just demonstrates how bullish they are in the long-term vision of this company. And also, I forgot to mention that the information that I talked about regarding Foundry was from an article by Bazinga. So that was a very good article. So I just want to acknowledge that. And then finally, let's talk about the stock price. So we closed on Friday the 26th of March at $22.58. And that is a very attractive price. If we look at the 6-month chart, you can see that we reached a high of $39. I think it actually reached almost $45 at one point, but let's say $39. So we're actually down about almost 45% since the January highs. So that's very significant pullback, and I see this as a very good buying opportunity. So the sad thing is I actually bought this stock at around $10, $11, and I think I bought it around here in October, and then I just sold quite shortly afterwards. So I actually didn't make any profit on this stock, and then this is what happened afterwards. So I've actually been kind of kicking myself for selling the stock, but the reason why I sold it was because I really didn't understand the company well enough. I actually went to buy some lemonade, which went on to do quite well, but in hindsight I should have kept this stock, and that's why I've done more research now, and just seeing the macro picture based on the information we talked about today, this makes me very bullish on the stock in terms of the future. And honestly, I don't really care what happens in the short term. I see this as a buying opportunity, and I'm probably going to buy some within the next week, and yeah, keep it for the long term. So that's what I'm planning to do. I'd love to hear what you guys are planning to do, and that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.